I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, July the 31st, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Macrocin is a bold, straight shooting tulathromycin injection that does what it's supposed to do for you, for your cattle, and most of all for your bottom line. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards, be a lighter run for them, just 4,500 is what they're estimating there. They're going to start at 6:30 in the morning. They'll be on the good bunches by 8 o'clock in the morning, and have a good sale. I have to talk about Joplin. Had a big last half of the week last week, including going to the King of the Ring livestock auctioneer contest in Dodge City, which in conjunction included the new inductions into the Cattle Marketing Hall of Fame. Well, one of those induction members was Jackie Moore, owner and operator of Joplin Regional Stockyards, and I was lucky enough to be selected by his family and his crew there to be the one to introduce him, and it was quite an honor for me. It was a very impressive ceremony that they had there. Nice banquet there, a great crowd, including about 80 people that came that were part of the Joplin crew that wanted to be there. And that's a pretty good drag over there to Dodge City, Kansas, but everybody was having a good time. I got to introduce Jackie, and after I did, he gave an acceptance speech that was pretty moving. I think you can still find that on Winter Livestock. They had a live Facebook Live of that. They may end up getting that somewhere on Joplin Regional Stockyards website. But it was pretty impressive. The whole ceremony was very impressive. They had some other induction members that were well deserving, including Cowboy Jack, that used to manage the market for many years there in Dodge City, Kansas. Beef Palmer from up in South Dakota. They had Jack Hunter from Crawford, Nebraska. Enjoyed visiting with his family there. Rich Robertson and Jack's daughter Alicia Robertson. But that was a good time to hang out with those guys. And also Rob Fisher was an induction member coming from Oklahoma City Stockyards there, being a president of that market for almost 20 years. But it was really worth doing. I think that thing has really come together. It was about the third year in a row that I was able to go to the banquet. It is definitely growing and becoming more impressive. It's going to be a coveted title to be one of those induction members going forward, and to put yourself with all these people that they are starting to assemble in that Hall of Fame. But I haven't seen one of them that I would question at all whether or not they should have been there. But if you guys start thinking about it, you might start thinking about somebody that you could nominate to be in there next year whenever they have it. And I would encourage you to try to get to the ceremony, because it's very impressive. Then they had the King of the Ring livestock auctioneer contest on Saturday. And what I have to say about the King of the Ring sales, of course, there and at Pratt, Kansas, is the thing that surprised me the most is that the receipts were so light. Now we're used to, in the past few years, used to seeing maybe 6,000 or 8,000 green grass yearlings at Pratt, and then maybe 10 or 12 at Dodge City. But I tell you what, the drought took its toll on that country right in there, guys. And it was probably the worst spot on the drought monitor for a couple of years, and it decimated that country. And then we have gotten relief in the last 6 weeks. It started to rain, and then now there's some grass out there. It actually looked pretty good around Dodge City. It's amazing how that native grass is real forgiving. But not many cattle left around there, guys. Talking with Steve Stratford from over there at Pratt, and he says, "Man, he says we're in a bind for the next year or two. We're gonna come up with cattle to sell, and I can sure see why." Excuse me, but auctioneer contest was good. I was also lucky enough to be one of the judges for the King of the Ring Livestock Auctioneer contest. That's my third time to do that, and that's a lot of fun too, and knew and enjoyed all the other guys that were judges there. We had a good time at the golf tournament that we had on Friday morning. It was just a great time, and I want to commend the Winter family there, Dodge City, for putting on that event and embracing competitors and folks that they don't know, but everybody that's in the business, which if you're in the business is really small. And it was just really cool to have all the people get together there. And the biggest part of us stayed there at the Boot Hill Casino and got to hang out and spend time with one another. And it was just really a good time. But the contest was competitive also. And I tell you what, I wasn't surprised, maybe pleasantly surprised, but Bailey Blue ended up being the winner of the King of the Ring contest. Bailey Blue is a world champion livestock auctioneer, but it's been a decade or so since he won that title. Hasn't competed in any contest since. A lot of the world champion livestock auctioneers never compete again, as they figure they won their last one. They don't have to prove anything to anybody. But he kind of wanted to. He has just recently left Oklahoma National Stockyards, where he's been selling for a lot of years, and took a position with Superior Livestock, and kind of a more sale manager type position rather than auctioneering, and he's kind of changing things up. But he was very impressive. I had him at the top of the list on my grading card, and I think pretty much everybody else did too. He won. Sisto Morales Paez from Portales, he got second. Surprised me driving over there. I assumed that he was going to go ahead and collect the first place buckle on that contest too, but and he did a nice job, but just didn't perform on that day as well as Bailey did. And Bailey was real impressive. And then my old friend and mentor Kenny Wilcox from Arkansas, he come in first runner-up, and I thought that was pretty impressive for a guy that's been doing it as long as he has. But he did a good job. He pulled a rabbit out of a hat and ranked up there among the very top auctioneers in the world still. And you got to give that to him for continuing to get in that contest and show what he can do. But and all the other guys did a great job too. But of all, those auctioneer contests, whoever performs the best on that particular day, they're the ones that reap the spoils there. But talk about your market conditions here for the feeder flash. Packer margins are tight and could be in the red. And now we've got inactive trade again. So, we talked about this here a couple of weeks ago when we didn't have any trade at all in the Southern Plains. Well, we didn't have any trade at all in the Southern Plains, and we didn't have enough trade in the Northern Plains to amount to anything. So what are all these sweetheart deals, these formula deals, what are they going to be base priced off of? Where's our price discovery for this fat cattle market? We understand the Packers are short on product and their margins are tight. Welcome to the real world. What do you think? How do you think these cattle feeders, the backgrounders, the cow-calf producers, how do you think they live year in and year out? And definitely 8 out of for sure 10 or 12 years, they're in the red or in extremely tight margins. And you think we're going to feel sorry for you? and not try to do something about it whenever we get zero trade. You know, the fat cattle market had all the right to be at least steady and maybe a buck or two higher. And of course, the packers don't want to give it because they're close to the red zone, losing a little bit of money. Well, you might have to lose some money 1 or 2 weeks out of 52 to keep things going whenever we get into this kind of a supply cycle, whenever things are really tight. That's just the way it goes. But they just bore down and would not bid enough to get any cattle bought. I want to give it the credit to those few fat cattle sellers that they stuck to their guns and wouldn't give in, and we didn't see any trade hardly at all. 6,100 head in the entire 5-area feeding region last week on a direct basis. Fed cattle sales a little bit more on Friday, but not enough to amount to nothing. And unless they had some late Friday trade or weekend trade, there's not going to be enough to hit the minimum level of volume at any of those prices to establish a market for price discovery for a base price on all those formula deals. So I guess they go back to the previous week. But too bad, guys. All you guys that's got the sweetheart deals and the formulas, they weren't able to get you a price set this week. Maybe more of you should participate in the price discovery. Maybe we should go back and look again at that bill that would have fixed this Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act, set minimum barriers on how small your movement can get of negotiated trade. So if we had the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act in, the packers would have by law had to participate in negotiated trade at a minimum level of their week's purchases. Now, they still purchased a lot of cattle. It was all based on the previous week's cash price. So they would have had to purchase significantly more cattle in a negotiated manner. The guys that were selling them in a negotiated manner would have known how tight they are, and they would have had to have paid up for them. Then your prices would be higher. I'm not saying they would always be higher, but in this particular case, they would have been sharply higher. And that's kind of what we're wanting. That's what we're looking at. Yet we've got National Corporate Beef Association, NCBA, fighting that bill tooth and nail with you guys as checkoff dollars. It's pretty darn frustrating, wouldn't it be? Let's talk about your board for last week. August live cattle futures for Monday down $1.27, Tuesday down 45 cents, Wednesday was up 37, Thursday down 62, Friday up a dime. August ended the week on live cattle at 178.15. That was down $1.87 for the week. October ended the week at 179.60, down $2.30. August feeder cattle, much more volatile, but didn't have as big a change for the week. But August feeder cattle contracts, Monday was down 2.67, Tuesday was down 2 cents, Wednesday was down 97 cents. Then it kind of turned around. Thursday was up 45, Friday up 95. August feeder cattle contracts ended the week at 245.60, down 32 cents for the week as a whole. September ended the week at 248.97, down only 30 cents for the week. December corn contracts ended the week at 5.30 on regular trading. That was down 6 cents. November new crop beans ended at 13.82 down 19.25 cents a bushel for the week. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for September ended the week at 8.56 down 4 cents a bushel for the week. And after a lot of volatility, if you've been watching Kansas City hard red winter wheat, I mean, it's just crazy. But what little bit of fat cattle trade we had, Through Thursday last week, like I said, there was only 6,100 head of fat cattle sold on a direct basis out of all the feedlots we have in the 5-area feeding region. Only scraped up 6,100 head. Absolutely ridiculous. Live sales, not well tested enough for trend, but live sales ranged in price from 183 to 186.50. That wasn't enough to move cattle. They wouldn't raise the prices enough to trade them. Dress sales, 288 to 294 on a light test there, and there was no market established there either. And that was through Thursday sales. Now Friday, we did have a few more cattle sell, and maybe a tick better, but not better than the previous week. But Iowa sold 5,800 on Friday, only 11,200 head for the week. Typically, they would sell in the 30,000 head percentile or range in there. But 5,800 head was on Friday. Live sales 185 to 188, which is close to steady with last week, but not quite as good as the tops. Nebraska traded only 900 on Friday, 1,700 head for the week, which is nothing for them. The only market they could post on Friday was dress sales, cash basis 291 to 292. That would be close to steady, but just not enough to establish a market. Kansas at 100 on Friday. What little dab they sold was at 178. That's off the market. The market was 180. Everybody else was wanting more than that. Texas didn't sell any cattle on Friday and only moved 52 head negotiated last week, guys, in all those feedlots in Texas. That is absolutely ridiculous. And then on Friday, your packers were trying to get something done, but the feedlots that sell dressed, they were passing the 292. They wanted 295 or better. They knew they deserved that. And then they were asking 190 on a live basis there, and the packers would not give that. So, just a kind of disappointing week there. But we'll see what happens here to start this week. Box beef cutout values have found some bottom here. Your weighted average on all of last week's sales on choice was only down 75 cents for the whole week. And that was on the weighted average at 303.32. Your late week sales were a little bit lower than that, ending on Friday afternoon at 302. Dress sale, or I should say select sales, box beef cutout values, weighted average on all of last week's sales was 278.33. That was actually up 228. And your late sales on Friday afternoon or about $1 off of the weighted average at 277.54, but about a $25 choice select spread, and that's all based on 577 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Your slaughter for last week was pretty disappointing. They did have, we talked about that fire. The fire didn't end up being quite as big a deal in Fort Morgan, Colorado, but it did cut some kills down, and they're doing cooler cleaning. They're doing anything they can to keep the workers busy there and not have to buy a lot of product. But they've got a lot of product promised, guys. They've got contracts they've got to fill. Eventually, they're going to have to start getting in and harvesting some cattle. But 619,000 estimated for last week would be 5,000 less than the previous week and 47,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DV auction ended the week at 245.02. That was up $3.92 for the week. Big gains. Every day just gained a little bit more, even on the days that the feeder cattle board was down pretty hard. But cash, there's a big demand for cash feeders right now. Cash feeders was $3 to $8 higher in most of the sales that had enough to test the market. You look at your National Beef Wire stick out sale for late last week and over the weekend, and of course it was the king of the ring. sale there at Winter Livestock in Dodge City, Kansas. You look at those best tested weights of steers, which was your big green grass yearling steers there, and those cattle had an empty weighing condition for the most part. Quality was very good, and the market was good on them. I wouldn't say it was any better than any of the other top markets around, but it sure wasn't any lower, despite the lack of fat cattle trade and not a whole lot of support from your board there. But look at 967 head of 7-weight steers in Dodge City on Saturday. They averaged 758 pounds, weighted average price $254.54. 1,416 head of 8-weight steers in Dodge averaged $848 with a weighted average price of $247.09. 978 head of 9-weight steers averaged $938, weighted average price $236.57. I'll give you a few other individual quotes from around. Santa Teresa livestock in Santa Teresa, New Mexico. These would be Mexican origin steers, already made it through the process and ready to be shipped to a new buyer in the United States. 61 head of steers, weighed 505 at 181. Pretty hardy type cattle there, guys. But look at some other quotes. I'm about Fort Pierre livestock, Fort Pierre, South Dakota. 56 head, 918 pound steers, bring $250.75. And that is so impressive there, guys. How about Dodge City, Kansas, with your top quote? Your Mackerson, no BS top quote for the day was 53 head, 795 pound steers at $259.50. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.